In a world of successful car manufacturing nations, South Korea is among the top, manufacturing around 4 million cars in 2018 and bringing the country around $80 billion plus in global revenue. This makes South Korea the sixth largest car manufacturing nation. However, South Korea had to play catch up. South Korea's first domestically mass-produced car was the Hyundai Pony in 1975, a car that shares the underpinnings with the UK's Ford Cortina, drivetrain from a Mitsubishi, and some Italian styling. This car will eventually become the XL in many markets, and though it was a start, Korean cars descended down a spiral of infamy. Unlike the extremely well-established and reliable Japanese brands of the 80s and 90s, South Korean brands were met with ridicule as consumers laughed at their shoddy quality. Trim pieces will fall off, AC will stop working, transmissions will grind, and they were generally cheap, uncool, and I do mean uncool cars. High schoolers who drove American muscle cars, Japanese tuners, or Euro cars will unanimously agree on one thing: Korean cars suck. Adults, for the most part, bought Korean cars because they had to, not wanted to, due to things such as low income or just bad credit. Take the 1997 Kia Sophia for example. Absolutely nothing special about that car. People bought them because they were cheap and drove them till their wheels fell off. However, part of the reason why the Koreans are so successful today is because these cheaply made cars were exactly what people needed. Not fun, but fundable, point A to point B transportation with a warranty. As these cars sold more and more, the South Korean manufacturers lined their pockets with not only R&D cash, but a very clear idea on what the car buying public actually wanted. Hyundai acquired majority share of Kia in 1998 and became Hyundai Kia Group. In the mid to late 2000s, this group gained newfound financial success, and the group will do something no other manufacturer expected. They will explode. So the first car will be the '07 Hyundai Tiburon. This will be the oldest nameplate in our list. People were impressed when they found out Hyundai was making a sporty car back in the 90s. The very first iteration doesn't look half bad, and then it was beaten with the ugly stick by one of the worst facelifts ever seen in car design. Then the second gen came out, which fixed the styling. The car looked okay, especially the Tuscany trim, but in '07 it underwent a transformation that was opposite the first gen, and was given one of the most attractive facelifts in recent history. The fascia became more aggressive, its lines were reminiscent of an Aston Martin, and it had big wheels, with front Brembo brakes to boot, even though it was front-wheel drive and maxed out at 135 miles per hour, with the 172 horsepower 2.7-liter Elisa V6, which had its engine cover hilariously made to look longitudinal like a rear-wheel drive car. Don't ask me. I consider the second-gen Tiburon to be the foreshadowing of the Korean explosion. Hyundai, that was actually cool. The 2011 Optima and Sonata 2T. Like the previously mentioned Sophia, the Kia Optima started out as a cheap, unexciting sedan meant to be a point A to point B car. But as it pressed on, they started to improve in quality, especially the third generation, released in 2010. The car was more attractive, more luxurious, loaded with the latest tech, but more importantly, it was faster. The base model only had the 2.4-liter Theta 2 putting down 200 horsepower to the front wheels, nothing special there. Pay a little extra and you will be rewarded with one good sleeper, the Optima 2.0T GDI, bringing out an insane 274 brake horsepower and 269 pound-feet of torque. Complete with dual exhaust, paddle shifters, or a 6-speed manual, and big 18-inch wheels, you could pick up the groceries while laying a win on a Civic Si or BRZ. Unfortunately, the drivetrain was detuned in later years to improve low-end response and prolong reliability. It's cool to know that the Optima and Sonata 2.0Ts were true sleepers back then. Bear with me, this is a car I don't know a whole lot about since I live in the States, but I do remember it being chosen for star in a reasonably priced car for Top Gear. The Kia Cee'D is a hatchback made exclusively for the European market. It succeeded in that venture and went on to become just as popular as the Focus, Golf, and Megane. The sportiest version of this car, the Pro C GT, made people respect it as a serious hot hatch competitor. The car made 201 brake horsepower out of its 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-banger derived from the Veloster. 0 to 60 is about 7.3 seconds, but its real strength is its superb handling directed by a quick responding, electronically assisted steering system. The ride quality was also heavily praised, as even though the car had Recaro seats and stiff suspension, it was much more tolerable than its faster competitors. Truly a car I wish came to the States. When you think of high luxury, you think of brands like Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, Cadillac, and Rolls-Royce. Back then, the last thing that will cross your mind is a Korean-made car. The Equus was a car that was only exclusive to the South Korean market during its first generation. The second generation made people talk when it was announced for worldwide release in the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. Equus was positioned as Hyundai's flagship and slated to compete with the full-size luxury sedan rivals such as the Lexus LS 460 and Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Its 429 horsepower, 5-liter V8 was powerful but wasn't really class-leading, but the amenities it offered were incredible given the price point. To really enjoy these cars, you have to be chauffeured in them. The rear seats are like luxurious thrones, with multi-point adjustability, massage feature, climate and entertainment controls, a chill box, and power leg rest. The best part is that the second gen Equus is a bargain right now, so pick one up if you want S-Class comfort in an affordable price. Kia Telluride. Now Kia did have its first foray into serious rugged SUV market with the Mojave. It was a hit in several markets but a complete failure in the United States, badged as the Borrego. Kia decided to try again for the 2020 model year with the Kia Telluride, this time riding the wave of the ever-growing popularity of family and off-road SUVs. The Telluride and its cousin the Palisade, named after cities in Colorado, uses the 291 horsepower Lambda 2 V6 engine, which has a peak torque of around 262 pound-feet at 5200 RPM. It doesn't sound that impressive, but it could hold its own on a trail with a rugged all-wheel drive system, 8 inches of ground clearance, and a brake-based torque vectoring system that directs torque to the wheel that needs it the most. Being a full-size SUV, it has spacious third-row seating, and with 58,000 sold already, it certainly won't end up like the Borrego anytime soon. Genesis G80. Even though the Equus was Hyundai's flagship, it was its stablemate, the Genesis, which really had the ball rolling for Hyundai's entry into the luxury car market. Originally powered by the versatile 4.6-liter Tao V8, the Genesis was a hit among entry-level luxury car buyers. Hyundai followed up with the blistering R-Spec trim, giving the car a much more powerful 5-liter, 429 horsepower version of the Tao, which rocketed the car to 60 in 4.8 seconds. In 2016, the Genesis received a major restyling and rebranded as the Genesis G80. However, the most important thing about this transition was the birth of the Genesis brand. Hyundai have officially created their own luxury subsidiary, similar to how Japanese automakers created Lexus, Acura, and Infiniti in the early 90s. To launch the brand, Hyundai called in many top designers and engineers from other automakers, such as the lead designers of the Bentley Continental and Bugatti Chiron. Hopefully, this newfound brand will reach the success Lexus has today. Kia Stinger GT. Badass is a word that you'll describe things such as a Mazda 787B, or a 427 Cobra, or a Lamborghini Countach, but never a Kia. That is, until we were introduced to the Stinger GT in 2018. A car that not only looks aggressive, with its wide grille, numerous vents, and fastback-like Coke bottle styling, but also has the performance and numbers to boot. Its top trim, the 375 horsepower twin-turbo V6, takes to 60 in 4.9 seconds, and does the quarter mile in the low 13s, with either the option of a launch-happy all-wheel drive, or slide-happy rear-wheel drive system, and yes, you can imagine sliding in a Kia. The coolness continues in the interior. We have a panoramic sunroof, well-bolstered bucket seats, flat-bottom steering wheel, and just an overall roomy but sporty atmosphere. This is certainly not your Kia Sophia from 1999. Few car makers ever take on design concepts that are so weird or wacky in fear that they will turn off more buyers than attract. In the case of the Veloster, a car that sounds like a stupid idea on paper, ended up becoming a massive success. It's a 3-door hatchback that has a rear door on one side, but not the other. It sounds idiotic, but people found it quirky, weird, but different, and therefore cool, and they flocked to it. Aside from the asymmetrical doors, the original car was an average hatchback with sufficient cargo space and a fuel-efficient 1.6-liter 138 horsepower 4-cylinder for long hauls. A spicier version came in the form of the Veloster Turbo, which bumped up power to 201 brake horsepower, had beefier exhaust, wider grille, and side skirts. It had sportier tight handling, but with a 15-second quarter-mile time, peppy at best. The Veloster nameplate reached an ultimate form with the release of the Veloster N. The N moniker is Hyundai's venture into making a letter of the alphabet into a sports car subsidiary, and where have I seen that before? Powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, sending 250 horsepower to the front wheels, takes the hatch to 60 in a respectable horse class 5.5 seconds. There is also a $2,100 performance package that adds 19-inch wheels, electronic limited slip differential, and a power bump to 275 horsepower. That is a bargain of a factory option, and you might as well opt for it if you get one. The Veloster has been a resounding sales success since its debut, but there is a car that has done a tad bit better. The Kia Soul. Once in a while, there is a car that not only single-handedly changes the image of a company, but also becomes sort of a national icon for its home nation. For Volkswagen in Germany, it was the original Bug. For Kia in South Korea, it was undoubtedly the Soul, released in 2009. The Soul benefited from having one of the most memorable and viral marketing campaigns in automotive history, resulting in Kia selling well more than 1 million Souls since its release. And yeah, those hamsters really sold these cars. The original Soul only had a measly 142 horsepower, and was as cheaply made as previous Kias. However, what sold it was its styling. It was practical, hip, modern, and unapologetically taking jabs at the then popular Scion XB. The Soul is so successful, Kia decided to adopt the Soul's hamster teeth grille into all of its later models. The Soul solved the problem that I mentioned earlier. It became a Kia people wanted to buy, not had to buy. The Hyundai Genesis Coupe. Cars like the Veloster and the Soul may have been sold in the millions, but it seems to be that if you want to make a car future gearheads will preserve, restore, and remember, it has to be a serious performance vehicle. The Genesis Coupe might have been discontinued after 2017, but it's still regarded as the most versatile Korean performance car to date. In its first year, the Gen Coupe came in either a base 210 horsepower 2-liter turbo or a 306 horsepower 3.8-liter Lambda V6. The rear-wheel drive 306 horsepower V6 Gen Coupe had both the BQ-powered 370Z and the modular-powered Mustang GT straight in its sights as direct competitors. Both the Turbo 4 and V6 could be optioned with the R-Spec package, which included a Torsen limited slip differential, 19-inch wheels, stiffer suspension, camber bolts, all-around Brembos, and sticky summer tires. The car styling itself was rather attractive, boasting of sleek, curvaceous, but bold lines around the car. Big changes came in the 2013 model year, where power bumps of up to 276 horsepower and 348 horsepower came to the 2T and V6 respectively. However, it did take the Veloster styling, which divided most fans. Some saw the change as adding to styling, while others saw it as factory rice, as they pointed out to the fake factory vent on the hood, which inspired some in the aftermarket to create and sell functional replacements. Speaking of tuners, the Genesis Coupe presented itself as a worthy platform for the aftermarket to work on, and with it, the Gen Coupe has garnered a following which rivals other sports cars. The last of these cars rolled out in 2016, but it's very likely a second generation will be released in the newly formed Genesis brand. In 2012, the viral hit Gangnam Style became the first YouTube video to hit 1 billion views. South Korea was spreading its cultural influence to the West, akin to how Japanese culture went mainstream in the 70s and 80s. Before, it was simply uncool to drive a Korean vehicle. Nowadays, KDM is a strong subculture in the car scene that continues to grow. The Korean industry is no longer what it once was. Soulless. Sorry, corny joke.